Well, Nancy, thank you so much. And I mean, it's just amazing not only to hear that how you rallied as a family, but that you're actually working not only to help Peter, but to work to get the drugs out there to help other people as well.
Absolutely, the greater good is,
Yeah.
and that's Peter.
So I wonder if you could start, maybe you could give us a sense of what your interactions have been like with the biotech companies, but also with the regulators, with the FDA.
Sure.
Has it, I mean, obviously you've had to learn all about that world, which is a complicated world,
Right.
and you've had to do it quickly. So maybe you can give us a sense of how you've done that and what the relationships have been like.
Well, the how is really easy. I'm a parent. So that was an easy jump for me. I'm a parent. What can I do? How am I going to, where's the pitfalls? Where are the holes? Well, unfortunately, I found that there were a lot of them. So with this whole thing of the whole world looking so totally unacceptable to me, you know, we immediately ventured out, and I can see people from ALSA here and ALS TDI, and we got to know, I mean, we're business people. My husband and I have owned our own business. Our first reaction as a parent was we're going to go back to medical school and we're going to solve this. Well, we didn't. Now we figured out we didn't have the time, so what can we do? So we went and we found out who the players were. So we knew what the holes were. We knew we had to find out who the players were so that we could integrate ourselves and learn what each section was doing. I don't want to call them silos because we use that way too often. But so who can we help? How can we tell our story? Our story is pretty powerful. And how can we aid in what their goals are? So Wendy at Biogen, of course, they had one of the most promising and hopeful drug development drugs that the community was waiting for. It had just gone through a phase 3 trial. Phase 2, there's been discussion about phase 2 data results, but phase 3 was an active ongoing trial when we entered this world. So, when the phase 3 results came out, it was devastating. It was the whole community. I remember Wendy and I being on the phone that morning. I actually got the call from my friend who works on Wall Street. It's really weird. Here I am, the parent of an ALS patient in the middle of this whole world, and I got to work at 7:30. My phone rang. It was my friend that works for Morgan, and he called me and he said, "What the heck's going on? Something just happened to Biogen's stock. Does it have anything to do with the ALS drug?" So I immediately called Wendy and said, "What's going on?" So we have.
Yeah. So the response to that phone call immediately, and this again points to putting the patient first, was complete honesty, full transparency, no gray areas, and I think that's really important when you're working with patient advocates. It was the hardest news to share and devastating for the entire community, but to have a one-to-one conversation like that, I was empowered to be fully open, fully transparent, and not hide anything. And it does impact the company's bottom line, as Nancy mentioned. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, and then so the FDA, which Wendy mentioned, that was a full day, 60 ALS patients. Peter spoke and I spoke, and it was absolutely one of the most powerful days I have ever spent. There were 8 FDA, most of them were case managers, so we were really happy to see them sitting there because they're the ones that actually, get the pile of paper and say, okay, this pile, that pile, this pile. And we wanted to give a face to it. There were some of the most powerful testimony, I will tell, the patients obviously and the patient families, but came from the OTs, PTs, and the caregivers, people who don't have family members that are affected by this, but people who dedicate their lives to helping the patients. The most powerful testimony I found came from some of them. Some came from doctors who work in the ALS world. If you can well imagine being in that world as a medical professional, getting up every day and going and fighting this battle, I'm sure, is one of the most difficult. So we basically told them the risk-benefit was our whole cause there, was to say, look, one model doesn't fit all. you're telling a patient that there's no treatment, no cure, and they have 2 to 5 years to live. Yeah, we're willing to take a lot more risk than someone who's sitting here with an acne problem. So you've got to move the model. You've got to adapt it based on the risk tolerance of the patient population. And the patients were loud and clear that day. I think one of the most powerful anecdotes that was said that day was by one ALS patient who said, if you gave me a choice of being on an airplane and telling me that I can jump out without a parachute or I can stay on the plane with ALS, I have a 1% chance of survival if I jump out without a parachute. He goes, I'll jump. Because I know where I'm going on that plane with ALS. So it's, hear someone say that. So we felt that day was a very productive day. So like I said, we've just joined organizations to see how we can aid them in the progress they're trying to make in what their goals are.